Most people have no idea that something as simple as a mineral could be the missing piece behind so many of the things they feel every single day. The fatigue that hits you before noon, the leg cramps that wake you up at night, the brain fog that makes it hard to focus. These are not just signs of getting older. In a lot of cases, they are signs that your body is running low on magnesium, one of the most important minerals in the human body and one of the most commonly overlooked. My name is John, and today we are going through 16 foods, many of them rooted directly in biblical tradition, that are absolutely loaded with magnesium. Foods that people have been eating for thousands of years. The same seeds, the same greens, the same legumes that ancient people relied on for strength and endurance are the same ones that nutritional research keeps coming back to thousands of years later. Stay with me until the end. Number 16 is the one that surprises people every time. And as always, this content is not intended as professional medical or nutritional advice. It does not replace any medication or treatment prescribed by a qualified healthcare professional. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet, supplement, or health routine. Food number 1, walnuts. Walnuts have been around for a very long time. They were grown and traded across the ancient world, from Persia all the way through the Mediterranean, and they were well known to the peoples of biblical times. In fact, the Song of Solomon mentions the walnut garden, and ancient texts from the region treat these nuts as something valuable, a luxury, a gift, a sign of prosperity. It is hard to look at a walnut and not notice that the inside looks remarkably like a human brain. 2 lobes, wrinkled surface, tucked inside a hard shell. It turns out that the resemblance is fitting. Walnuts are genuinely one of the best foods you can eat for brain health. A 1-ounce serving, that is about 12 to 14 halves, gives you roughly 45 milligrams of magnesium, along with a meaningful dose of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids. In fact, walnuts are the only nut that contains significant amounts of these omega-3s, which are important for reducing inflammation throughout the body. Studies have found that the antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds in walnuts may help protect brain cells from damage and could even help slow the kind of mental decline that tends to creep in with age, including problems with memory and processing speed. For the heart, walnuts are equally impressive. Multiple clinical studies have shown that eating a small amount of walnuts regularly can help lower LDL cholesterol, that is the bad kind, and reduce triglycerides, which are another type of blood fat linked to heart disease. The FDA has even allowed a qualified health claim on walnut packaging, connecting them to reduced heart disease risk, which is not something they do lightly. The magnesium in walnuts plays a direct role here too. Magnesium helps keep your heart rhythm regular, helps blood vessels relax, and supports healthy blood pressure. Getting enough of it from your food is one of the quieter ways to protect your heart over time. One small note: walnuts are calorie dense, so a handful is really the right amount rather than eating them by the bag. People with tree nut allergies should obviously avoid them. And because walnuts contain a moderate amount of oxalates, people with a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones may want to check with their doctor about appropriate portions. But for most people, a small serving a few times a week is one of the most straightforward nutritional improvements you can make. The simplest way to work them in is to keep a small bag on the counter. Add them to oatmeal in the morning. Toss a handful into a salad at lunch. They do not require preparation. They do not need to be cooked, and they last for weeks when stored properly. Few nutritional upgrades are this easy. Food number 2, figs. If there is one fruit that appears more consistently throughout the scriptures than almost any other, it is the fig. The fig tree appears in the very first chapters of Genesis. The Promised Land is described in Deuteronomy as a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates. During the time of Solomon, prosperity was measured by every man sitting under his own vine and fig tree. Jesus encountered a fig tree on the road to Jerusalem. It would be difficult to overstate how present this fruit was in the daily lives of the people of the Bible. And it turns out they were eating very well. Fresh figs provide a gentle dose of magnesium, around 17 milligrams per medium fig, but dried figs are significantly more concentrated. A half cup of dried figs can deliver close to 50 milligrams of magnesium, along with a meaningful amount of potassium, calcium, and fiber. What makes figs particularly interesting for older adults is their effect on digestive health. Figs contain both soluble and insoluble fiber, which helps keep things moving in the gut, feeds the beneficial bacteria in the colon, and can ease the kind of chronic constipation that many older people deal with quietly but regularly. They have also long been used as a natural way to support digestion, going all the way back to traditional medicine in the ancient world. The potassium in figs works together with magnesium to support healthy blood pressure. Both minerals help the blood vessels stay relaxed and flexible rather than tight and stiff. And the natural sugars in figs, while real, come packaged with fiber that slows their absorption, which means they are gentler on blood sugar than most sweetened foods. There is one thing worth mentioning for anyone who is watching their blood sugar closely or taking medications for diabetes. Dried figs are higher in natural sugar than fresh ones, so portion size matters. A small handful is plenty. But for most people, figs are a wonderfully old-fashioned food that brings far more to the table than most modern snacks ever will. Fresh figs are at their best in late summer and early autumn. Dried figs are available year-round in most grocery stores and keep well at room temperature. They are good eaten on their own, sliced over yogurt, or paired with a small piece of cheese for a simple and genuinely nourishing snack. The ancient world knew what it was doing when it built entire images of peace and prosperity around the fig tree. Food number 3, pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds do not appear by name in the Bible, but pumpkins and gourds are referenced in ancient texts, and seeds of all kinds have been a fundamental part of human food for thousands of years across the biblical world. What matters more here, though, is what these small seeds actually do for your body, and the answer is remarkable. Pumpkin seeds are, ounce for ounce, one of the most magnesium-dense foods on the entire planet. A single 1-ounce serving, just a small palmful, contains somewhere between 150 and 168 milligrams of magnesium. That is roughly 40% of what most adults need in an entire day from one small snack. No food on this list delivers more magnesium per bite. They also bring iron, zinc, manganese, phosphorus, and healthy fats along with them. Zinc in particular is something that many older adults are quietly short on, and it plays an important role in immune function, wound healing, and maintaining the senses of taste and smell. Magnesium from pumpkin seeds is especially valuable for muscle function. If you have ever woken up in the middle of the night with a leg cramp, that sudden, painful tightening that comes out of nowhere, there is a good chance low magnesium played a role. Magnesium is what helps muscles release and relax after they contract. Without enough of it, the muscles can stay tense or seize up without warning. Pumpkin seeds are also a good source of plant-based protein and contain compounds that have been studied for their potential role in supporting prostate health in men and bladder health in both men and women, though research in these areas is still developing. They are easy to add to your daily routine. Sprinkle them over oatmeal in the morning, toss them into a salad, or just keep a small bag around for snacking. Roasted is fine, but unsalted is better if you are watching your sodium. Either way, this is one of the simplest, most powerful nutritional upgrades you can make without changing much at all. Food number 4, almonds. Almonds appear by name in the Bible more than once. In Genesis, when Jacob sends his sons to Egypt, he includes almonds among the best gifts of the land. In Exodus, the lampstand in the tabernacle is described as being shaped like almond blossoms. The almond tree blooms earlier than any other tree in the region, a sign of something coming, something waking up, and it was seen as special among the people of that time. 1 ounce of almonds, about 23 nuts, contains roughly 76 to 80 milligrams of magnesium. That is about 19% of the daily recommended amount in a single small serving. They also deliver vitamin E, which acts as a powerful antioxidant protecting your cells from damage, healthy monounsaturated fats that support heart health, and a solid amount of protein and fiber that helps keep you feeling satisfied between meals. For blood sugar management, almonds have a strong track record. Their combination of protein, fat, and fiber slows digestion and prevents the sharp blood sugar spikes that can follow a meal. For anyone who is pre-diabetic or trying to keep their blood sugar steady as they get older, adding a handful of almonds to a meal or eating them as a snack can make a meaningful difference in how the body responds to food throughout the day. Almonds also contain calcium, which works alongside magnesium to maintain bone density. As people age, bones naturally lose some of their density, and getting both of these minerals consistently from food is one of the most sensible ways to support bone health over the long term. One note worth mentioning: almonds are high in a naturally occurring compound called oxalate, which, in large amounts, can contribute to kidney stones in people who are prone to them. For most people, this is not a concern at normal serving sizes, but if you have a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones, it is worth checking with your doctor about how much is right for you. For everyone else, a small handful of almonds most days is one of the most reliable, practical habits you can build for your overall health. Food number 5, avocados. Avocados are not native to the Middle East, and they do not appear in the Bible. But they belong on this list because of what they bring nutritionally, and because they fit naturally into the kind of whole food diet that the biblical tradition represents: simple, unprocessed, straight from the earth. A single whole avocado contains around 58 milligrams of magnesium, along with generous amounts of potassium, more, in fact, than a banana, and healthy monounsaturated fats that the heart genuinely loves. These are the same kinds of fats found in olive oil, which is one of the most celebrated foods in all of Scripture. What makes avocados stand out is how many nutritional needs they address at once. The healthy fat content helps your body absorb fat-soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, and K, from other foods you eat alongside them. So adding avocado to a salad does not just make the salad tastier, it actually helps you absorb more nutrition from the greens and vegetables in it. The fiber content in avocados is also significant. Most of the carbohydrates in an avocado come from fiber rather than sugar, which means they have a very low effect on blood sugar. Good news for anyone monitoring their levels. The fiber also feeds beneficial gut bacteria and helps support regular digestion. The combination of magnesium and potassium is particularly good for blood pressure. Both minerals help blood vessels relax and function properly. Studies have found that diets consistently high in these two minerals are associated with lower rates of hypertension, which is one of the most common and dangerous health conditions among older adults. Avocados are also rich in B vitamins, including folate and B6, which support a healthy nervous system and play a role in mood regulation. Half an avocado a day is a very reasonable and beneficial amount for most people. If you are on blood-thinning medication, particularly warfarin, it is worth checking with your doctor, as avocados contain vitamin K, which can affect how that medication works. Food number 6, bananas. Bananas are another food that does not show up directly in Scripture, but they have been cultivated and eaten across the ancient tropical world for thousands of years and are now one of the most widely consumed fruits on Earth. There is a reason for that. A medium banana contains about 32 milligrams of magnesium, along with a well-known supply of potassium, around 422 milligrams per fruit. The combination of these two minerals makes bananas particularly valuable for heart and muscle health. Both are electrolytes, meaning they help regulate the electrical signals that control how your heart beats and how your muscles contract and relax. Bananas are especially easy to eat for people who have trouble with their appetite or who struggle to get enough calories in a day. They are soft, easy to digest, require no preparation, are inexpensive, and come in their own natural packaging. For older adults who are dealing with reduced appetite or who have dental issues that make eating harder, bananas are one of the most accessible, nutritious foods available. The natural sugars in a banana, fructose, glucose, and sucrose, are balanced by a moderate amount of fiber, which means they provide steady energy rather than a sharp spike and crash. Unripe bananas contain a particularly useful type of fiber called resistant starch, which feeds the good bacteria in your gut and may help with blood sugar regulation. As bananas ripen and the resistant starch converts to sugar, they become easier to digest but have a slightly higher effect on blood sugar. For people with diabetes or those who are very carefully managing blood sugar, slightly less ripe bananas, still yellow but not overly spotted, are generally the better choice. Bananas also contain vitamin B6, which supports brain function and the production of serotonin and dopamine, two chemicals that play a significant role in mood and emotional well-being. For the price and convenience, bananas are one of the best nutritional bargains in the grocery store. Food number 7, lentils. Few foods in the entire Bible carry the dramatic weight of lentils. In Genesis, Esau returns from the field utterly spent and sells his birthright, his entire inheritance, for a bowl of red lentil stew that his brother Jacob is cooking. This is not the act of a foolish man. This is the act of a man who is truly depleted and who recognizes in that simple bowl exactly what his body needs. In 2 Samuel, one of David's most feared warriors stands alone in a field of lentils and holds it against an entire enemy force. A field worth defending, a crop worth protecting. Understanding what lentils actually contain, that story starts to make more sense. A cooked cup of lentils delivers around 71 milligrams of magnesium, 18 grams of protein, and an extraordinary 15 to 16 grams of fiber. They are one of the most nutritionally complete plant foods in existence. They also supply iron, folate, and potassium, nutrients that work together to support blood production, cardiovascular health, and energy at the cellular level. The fiber in lentils is a particular gift for blood sugar control. It slows the digestion of carbohydrates dramatically, preventing the sharp rises in blood sugar that lead, over time, to insulin resistance. People who eat legumes like lentils regularly have consistently lower rates of type 2 diabetes in large dietary studies. That fiber also feeds the beneficial bacteria in the gut, which has effects that ripple outward into immune function and even mood. Lentils are easy on the wallet, require no soaking like other legumes, and cook relatively quickly. They can be stirred into soups, mixed into stews, or cooked down with a little garlic and olive oil into something simple and deeply satisfying. Esau recognized that his body needed something real. Sometimes the most extraordinary food comes in the plainest pot. If you take blood-thinning medications or have kidney disease, it is worth checking with your doctor about portions, as lentils are high in potassium, which can require monitoring in kidney conditions. Food number 8, chickpeas. Chickpeas are one of the oldest cultivated foods in human history. They have been found at archaeological sites across the Middle East, dating back more than 9,000 years, and they appear explicitly in biblical texts among the foods eaten in ancient Israel. They are listed alongside lentils and beans as a core part of the diet of the people of that time and region. A half cup of cooked chickpeas delivers around 35 to 40 milligrams of magnesium, along with a solid combination of plant protein, fiber, iron, and folate. They are one of the main ingredients in hummus, which has been made and eaten in the Middle East for centuries and is simply chickpeas blended with sesame seed paste, lemon, and olive oil. 3 other ingredients with genuine nutritional value of their own. What chickpeas do particularly well is keep people full. The combination of protein and fiber in chickpeas slows digestion and extends the feeling of fullness after a meal, which is helpful for anyone trying to manage their weight or avoid the kind of constant hunger that leads to reaching for less nutritious foods. Studies have found that people who regularly eat chickpeas tend to consume fewer overall calories without feeling deprived. The fiber in chickpeas also helps with cholesterol. Soluble fiber binds to cholesterol in the digestive tract and helps carry it out of the body before it can be absorbed, which over time can help bring LDL cholesterol down meaningfully. Chickpeas contain folate, which is important for heart health by helping to regulate a compound called homocysteine, high levels of which have been linked to increased cardiovascular risk. This is particularly relevant for older adults. If you experience bloating or digestive discomfort from chickpeas, starting with smaller portions and increasing gradually, or choosing canned chickpeas that have been rinsed well, can help your gut adjust comfortably. Food number 9, beans. Beans are woven through the Bible as a common and essential food. In 2 Samuel, beans appear as part of the provisions brought to King David and his followers during their time of need. The prophet Ezekiel is instructed to bake bread containing beans alongside other grains and legumes. A dense, nourishing bread built for endurance. Beans were not a food of the desperate in the biblical world. They were foundational. There are many types of beans, and they all bring something valuable to the table. Black beans in particular stand out for magnesium. A full cup of cooked black beans delivers around 120 milligrams of magnesium, which is roughly a quarter to a third of most adults' daily needs in a single serving. Kidney beans, navy beans, and white beans are all strong sources as well. Beyond magnesium, beans are one of the most complete plant foods available. They supply protein, fiber, iron, potassium, and a range of B vitamins that support energy production and nervous system health. The fiber content of beans is especially remarkable, both the soluble type that helps lower cholesterol and the insoluble type that keeps digestion moving and supports the health of the colon over time. For heart health, the evidence behind regular bean consumption is strong. Large population studies have consistently found that people who eat beans several times a week have lower rates of heart disease, better cholesterol profiles, and more stable blood pressure than those who rarely eat them. This is the kind of data that builds up over decades of research and millions of people, not a trend, but a pattern. Beans are also filling, inexpensive, and versatile. They work in soups, stews, salads, and alongside almost any main dish. Canned beans are perfectly nutritious as long as they are rinsed to reduce the sodium content. If you have kidney disease, speak with your doctor about portion sizes, as the high potassium in beans requires monitoring for people with reduced kidney function. Food number 10, spinach. Spinach is not called out by name in the Bible, though dark leafy greens were certainly part of life in the ancient world, and herbs and green plants are referenced throughout both the Old and New Testaments. What spinach has become in the modern world is perhaps one of the most well-earned nutritional reputations of any vegetable on the planet. A half cup of cooked spinach, which is a surprisingly small amount since spinach wilts dramatically when cooked, contains around 78 milligrams of magnesium. That is an enormous return for something that takes up almost no space on your plate once it has been cooked down. Raw spinach has less, but cooking it concentrates everything and makes the magnesium more available to the body. Spinach is also rich in iron, which is important for carrying oxygen through the blood, and vitamin K, which plays a role in blood clotting and bone strength. It contains lutein and zeaxanthin, two compounds that have been studied for their role in protecting the eyes from age-related macular degeneration, a common cause of vision loss in older adults. The vitamin A in spinach supports immune function and healthy skin. For people who are prone to kidney stones, specifically calcium oxalate stones, spinach does warrant some caution. It is high in oxalates, and for people who have a history of this type of kidney stone, doctors often recommend limiting high oxalate foods. For most people, however, spinach is completely safe and enormously beneficial. Cooking it reduces the oxalate content by roughly half, and eating it alongside calcium-rich foods can help reduce absorption of oxalates as well. People taking blood-thinning medication like warfarin should also be aware that spinach is high in vitamin K, which can interact with how that medication works. Keeping your spinach intake consistent rather than dramatically changing it is generally the key. For everyone else, spinach is one of the easiest and most rewarding nutritional additions you can make. Food number 11, Swiss chard. Swiss chard is part of the same family as beets, and dark leafy greens in the same category were eaten throughout the ancient Mediterranean world. It may not carry the same famous biblical references as figs or almonds, but it belongs in this conversation simply because of what it delivers. A half cup of cooked Swiss chard contains about 75 milligrams of magnesium, very close to spinach, along with a remarkable range of vitamins and minerals. It is one of the best sources of vitamin K in the plant world. It provides substantial vitamin A and vitamin C, and it contains a variety of antioxidant compounds including betalains, which give the stems of rainbow chard their vivid red, yellow, and orange colors. These pigment compounds have been studied for their anti-inflammatory properties. Swiss chard is also a meaningful source of potassium, which, together with its magnesium content, makes it genuinely supportive of heart health. Potassium helps counteract the blood pressure-raising effect of sodium, and many people eating a typical modern diet are getting far too much sodium and far too little potassium, a combination that puts long-term pressure on the cardiovascular system. What makes Swiss chard particularly practical is that it is easier and faster to cook than many other greens. The leaves wilt quickly in a pan with a little olive oil and garlic, and the flavor is slightly milder than spinach, which makes it a good option for people who find strong greens off-putting. The stems take slightly longer to cook and can be treated like a vegetable in their own right. The same oxalate consideration applies to Swiss chard as to spinach. It is high in oxalates, so people with a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones should be mindful of portions. And as with spinach, people on blood-thinning medication should keep their intake consistent and speak with their doctor. For most people, though, Swiss chard is a deeply nourishing green that is worth making a regular part of the table. Food number 12, tofu. Tofu comes from soybeans, and while soybeans themselves are not native to the biblical world, they have been cultivated in Asia for thousands of years and now form a globally important source of plant-based protein. Tofu arrived in this conversation because of its nutritional profile, not its geography, and what it brings to the table is worth knowing. A 3.5-ounce serving of firm tofu contains around 35 milligrams of magnesium, along with 8 to 10 grams of protein, meaningful amounts of calcium, iron, manganese, and selenium. For people who do not eat meat or are reducing their animal protein intake for health reasons, tofu is one of the most practical and nutritious alternatives available. It contains all of the essential amino acids the body cannot produce on its own, which makes it a complete protein, relatively rare in the plant kingdom. Tofu is also soft in texture, which makes it accessible for people who have difficulty chewing tougher foods. It absorbs the flavors of whatever it is cooked with, so it can be prepared in an enormous variety of ways: pan-fried, baked, stirred into soups, or blended into smoothies for added protein without changing the flavor. From a bone health perspective, tofu made with calcium sulfate, which is printed on the label, is a particularly good source of calcium, rivaling dairy products in some cases. Calcium and magnesium together support bone density, and for people who have moved away from dairy, calcium-set tofu can help fill that gap. There are a few things worth knowing. Tofu is derived from soy, which is one of the more common food allergens. Anyone with a soy allergy obviously needs to avoid it. Tofu is also moderately high in oxalates, so people with a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones should be cautious with large portions and speak with their doctor. Some people have questions about soy and hormones, specifically the phytoestrogens in soy. Current evidence suggests that moderate consumption of soy foods like tofu is safe for most adults, but if you have concerns, particularly around hormone-sensitive conditions, it is a conversation worth having with your doctor. Food number 13, oats. Oats, or their ancient equivalents among cultivated grains, have fed people for thousands of years. Grains are among the most central foods in all of Scripture, the cornerstone of daily bread, the first fruits offered at harvest, the sustenance that carried whole peoples through long journeys and hard years. Oats in particular appear in biblical-era lists of cultivated grains and were a fundamental part of life in the ancient Near East. A cup of cooked oatmeal delivers around 55 to 60 milligrams of magnesium, along with a type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan that has become one of the most well-researched dietary compounds in nutrition science. The FDA has actually approved a health claim specifically stating that oat beta-glucan may help reduce the risk of heart disease, a claim that requires substantial scientific backing before it can be made. What beta-glucan does is form a thick, gel-like substance in the digestive tract that slows the absorption of cholesterol and sugar. Over time, regular consumption of oats has been shown in multiple studies to meaningfully reduce LDL cholesterol, the kind most associated with heart disease risk. For older adults who are dealing with elevated cholesterol, this is not a small benefit. Oats are also one of the gentlest foods available for the digestive system. They are soft, easy to swallow, and easy to digest, making them a reliable and comforting option for people with sensitive stomachs or limited appetite. The key distinction to keep in mind when buying oats is that more processed means less beneficial. Instant oats in flavored packets often contain added sugar and lose some of their nutritional value in processing. Rolled oats or steel-cut oats retain more fiber, more magnesium, and more of the slow, steady energy release that makes them so valuable. A bowl of plain oats with some nuts and fresh fruit on top is one of the most nutritionally complete breakfasts a person can eat, and it does not require much effort at all. Food number 14, sesame seeds. Sesame is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history, and it appears in ancient records throughout the biblical world. Sesame oil was pressed and used widely across the ancient Near East, for cooking, for lamps, and for medicinal purposes. The seeds themselves were eaten, ground into paste, and incorporated into food in ways that would be immediately recognizable to anyone familiar with modern Middle Eastern cooking. Sesame seeds pack a truly impressive amount of magnesium into a very small package. A quarter cup of sesame seeds contains around 126 milligrams of magnesium. In the form of tahini, which is simply ground sesame seeds, the same paste used to make hummus, 2 tablespoons provide around 28 milligrams of magnesium, along with healthy fats and a meaningful amount of calcium. Sesame seeds are one of the best plant-based sources of calcium available, which is particularly useful for people who do not consume dairy. Calcium and magnesium, as mentioned earlier, work together to maintain bone strength, and sesame delivers both in a concentrated and practical form. They also contain a group of compounds called lignans, specifically sesamin and sesamolin, which have been studied for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Some research suggests these compounds may help support liver health and may have a mild beneficial effect on blood pressure, though more human research is needed before strong conclusions can be drawn. Sesame seeds are easy to add to food without any real effort. Sprinkle them over a salad, stir them into yogurt, add them to bread or stir-fry, or just keep a jar of tahini in the refrigerator and spread it on whole grain bread or use it as a dip. A small amount goes a nutritional long way. Sesame allergy, while less common than others, does exist and can be quite serious in some individuals. This is worth knowing, especially for anyone who has experienced unexpected reactions to foods in the past. Food number 15, cashews. Cashews come from South America originally and were not part of the biblical world, but they have become one of the most widely eaten nuts on Earth, and their magnesium content alone earns them a place on this list. A 1-ounce serving of cashews, roughly 18 nuts, provides around 72 to 83 milligrams of magnesium, making them one of the higher magnesium nuts available. They are also a good source of copper, which helps the body produce energy and supports the health of connective tissue and blood vessels. Zinc, which supports immune function, and healthy unsaturated fats. What makes cashews particularly interesting nutritionally is how the combination of magnesium, copper, and healthy fats supports the nervous system. Magnesium helps regulate the activity of the nervous system and is involved in the production of serotonin, a brain chemical that plays a major role in mood regulation. Some research has found that low magnesium levels are associated with higher rates of anxiety and depression, and while eating cashews is not a treatment for these conditions, Getting adequate magnesium from food is a sensible part of supporting overall mental well-being. For older adults dealing with joint discomfort or inflammation, the monounsaturated fats and anti-inflammatory compounds in cashews may offer some mild support as part of an overall anti-inflammatory diet. Cashews are notably lower in fiber than almonds, but higher in carbohydrates, making them among the slightly more indulgent of the tree nuts. Portion control matters. A small handful rather than a large bowlful is the right amount. People with tree nut allergies should avoid them, and as with many nuts, cashews are also moderately high in oxalates, which is relevant for those with a history of certain types of kidney stones. That said, for most people, a small serving of cashews makes for a satisfying, magnesium-rich snack that does real good in the body. Food number 16, dark chocolate. Here it is, the one that surprises people. And yes, it belongs on this list. Chocolate comes from the cacao plant, which originates in Central America and was certainly not part of the biblical diet. But what people are often shocked to discover is that dark chocolate, real dark chocolate, with 70% cocoa or higher, is one of the most magnesium-dense foods available, and it comes with a range of other benefits that have been backed by serious research. A 1-ounce serving of dark chocolate with 70 to 85% cocoa contains around 64 milligrams of magnesium. That is more than most fruits and more than many vegetables. It also contains iron, copper, manganese, and some fiber. And it is loaded with antioxidants, particularly compounds called flavonols, which have been studied extensively for their effects on heart health. The flavonols in dark chocolate have been shown to help protect the cells lining the arteries, reduce inflammation, improve blood flow, and lower LDL cholesterol from oxidizing, which is the process that makes cholesterol actually dangerous to the arteries. Multiple studies have found that regular consumption of small amounts of dark chocolate is associated with modest improvements in blood pressure, and the research on this has been consistent enough that cardiologists take it seriously. The magnesium in dark chocolate also contributes to the mood-lifting effect that many people notice after eating it. Magnesium supports serotonin production, and chocolate additionally stimulates the release of endorphins, natural compounds in the brain that produce a sense of pleasure and ease. The key word here is dark. Milk chocolate and white chocolate contain very little cocoa solids and therefore very little magnesium or flavonols. They are mostly sugar and fat and do not carry the same benefits. You want 70% cocoa minimum and ideally higher. The other key word is moderation. An ounce or so, a few small squares, is the right amount. Dark chocolate is still calorie dense, and eating large amounts will introduce a lot of sugar and fat along with the benefits. For most people, a small piece of good dark chocolate most days is not an indulgence to feel guilty about. It is actually, quietly, one of the better things you can do for yourself. If you are managing diabetes or watching your blood sugar closely, choose chocolate with the highest cocoa percentage you can, as the sugar content drops as the cocoa goes up. And as always, if you have concerns, check with your doctor. So, there they are, 16 foods, rooted in ancient wisdom and backed by modern research that your body needs, and that most modern diets consistently leave behind. Magnesium does not make headlines the way that the newest supplement trend does. It is not exotic or complicated. It is just a mineral, one that your heart depends on, your muscles depend on, your sleep depends on, your mood depends on, and one that the ancient peoples of the biblical world were eating naturally through the foods that grew around them, and the seeds and nuts and legumes that formed the backbone of their daily meals. You do not have to eat all 16 of these foods every single day. But even adding 2 or 3 of them regularly, the pumpkin seeds, the lentils, the spinach, the dark chocolate, can make a real difference in how you feel over time. Remember, nothing in this video is meant as medical advice. If you have existing health conditions or take medications regularly, some of these foods carry considerations worth discussing with your doctor. If this was useful, share it with someone who might need it. And take care of yourself, starting perhaps with what is already on your plate.